What's up guys, welcome to this review of Fighting With My Family, a film about the rise and debut of now retired WWE superstar Paige. So what did I think of it? I think it's pretty good. It's a really well done comedy drama movie. It's well told, it's fun, it balances the comedy and the drama pretty well. The first half of the film is really delves into the characters and makes them likable and lovable. The second half then goes into some of the darker, more serious elements, and ultimately I think it's a pretty important story that's told here about identity, about being yourself, and about not judging people by the way they look and so on. So one of the problems I had with this film is, and it's a minor problem because most people won't have this problem, is that as a wrestling fan, as a big fan of Paige, I know the story really well. I could have told you beat by beat what happens in this story without ever having seen this movie. So that meant that there was very few surprises in here for me. In fact, the biggest surprises for me were when they went off what actually happened and they actually had some inconsistencies and some things that didn't actually happen and that things don't quite make sense. So the changes that they've made here make sense. They've streamlined it, they've made it a bit more dramatic, it makes it a bit more of a film. But as a wrestling fan, and I imagine a lot of other wrestling fans and fans of Paige will be watching this and scratching their heads in places and be a little frustrated by it because there are some big omissions, there are some big events that have been brushed over, certain individuals who are completely ignored and omitted. So Emma Tenille Dashwood, for example, no mention of her here, no mention of her match with Paige, which was like a big historic match. It tries to give Paige almost all the credit for the women's revolution when it's not quite accurate. So yeah, big wrestling fans will have some problems here. It doesn't make the film any worse or any better, but it does. It's a bit distracting, is the problem. So some of the other, just to give some examples, some of the other inconsistencies and inaccuracies are really head-scratching ones because it shows Paige having been a wrestling fan when she was a kid. It shows that she made a title belt out of like cardboard paper based on the title belt that she was watching on TV. Well, the problem is, when she was a kid watching TV, that belt never existed. So, yeah. And I get it. That's the belt that she ends up winning at the eventually. So, it makes sense as a film goer who's not familiar with the story to have it be that belt. But again, in real life, it wouldn't have been that belt. And then there's also the fact that when she debuts in the WWE, the arena that she's actually in is not the arena she actually debuted in. It actually looked different. Again, these are all little minor little things that film goers won't mind at all, but wrestling fans will be frustrated by. But I've talked about wrestling quite a bit here. This is not just a wrestling movie. In fact, the wrestling's kind of just a background for what it's actually about, and it's about identity. It's about being yourself. It's about not judging someone by the way they look. It's about trying to achieve your dreams and goals and figuring out what it is you're meant to do in life. That's what it's all about at its core, and I think it does a really good job of getting them about. And because it got a good mix of comedy and drama, it's a good, fun film, and it gets its message across in a accessible way. And because of this, I think it really highlights the importance of Paige in WWE's history because she was one of the key proponents in the women's revolution, which, if you don't know, was essentially in the past 10 years, not even the past 10 years, but when women started to get more screen time, when women started to get more matches, better matches, they weren't just used as eye candy, they were used as wrestlers. They went from being divas to being women superstars. So that's what the women's revolution is. It highlights how important Paige was in that, and it does a good job of that. But again, by omitting like Emma Tenille Dashwood and some of the other women there, like Charlotte, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, it kind of suggests that Paige was the only one responsible for that, when that's not quite true. So this is all about the start of Paige's WWE career. It brushes over her time in NXT for some reason, and it does a good job at telling the story it wants to tell, and it's a good story. I would, however, like to see a potential sequel to this where it's about Paige and her final 2 years in WWE, because a lot happens to Paige in real life. In fact, it's a pretty dark story in places. Some really bad stuff happened to her in the past couple of years, and I think that would make a really far more interesting, far more dramatic movie as well. You can look up that in your own time, but yeah, she's had some rough moments in the past few years, but she seems to have come out on top. So yeah, that's about the story. Let's go into the characters a bit more. So the main character, Paige, played by Florence Pugh. So she's been showing up in a bunch of things recently. She's really on the rise. She's going to be someone to keep an eye out for. She nails the character of Paige here. I've seen Paige multiple times. I know Paige. I say I know Paige. I don't know her personally, but she's nailed the voice, the accent, the mannerisms, the look of the character. She just becomes Paige, and it's really quite impressive a performance from her. And she's not the only one who's done this. Almost everyone in the cast has become someone else. So Lena Headey looks and sounds and behaves like the mother that I've seen prop up on a few other things here and there. Nick Frost, I think this is probably one of Nick Frost's best performances. He does play like the big manly man who's all about muscle and wrestling, but then at the same time there's like a big emotional element to him that the film really does a good job of exploring. So yeah, this is one of Nick Frost's best performances, and I was really quite impressed by him as well. There's a great soundtrack in the movie. It's not just wrestling movie. It's not just wrestling music. Sorry, it's not just rock music. It makes sense for what's going on in the film. It's actually just a good, feel-good soundtrack for the most part. The cinematography was good as well. The use of locations was good. The film is primarily set in England and in Florida. So when you're in Florida, the cinematography is brighter, more colourful. When you're in England, the cinematography is more darker and grittier and a bit more grounded. So the cinematography does a really good job of evoking the feel and mood of these locations, and it's really just well done. It gives each one a distinct look and feel. And I don't know how much of it was actually filmed in Florida, how much was actually filmed in England, but I get a sense that they were in different locations, even if that wasn't the actual case. But in terms of the production, I know this is co-produced by WWE Studios. I don't know how involved WWE was in this, but it does make you wonder, if WWE was involved in the making of this film, how did they get so many things a little inaccurate and a little wrong? Surely there were being a few questions thrown around here and there. But yeah, some of the changes make sense. It makes for a better dramatic film, more streamlined film. But again, wrestling fans will be frustrated. And ultimately, I like this film quite a lot. It's just a fun, enjoyable film with an important story, a great, likeable lead character. And I suggest you look up Paige in real life to see what's happened to her, because it's really quite interesting. I think there could be a great sequel to be made about how her career came to an end and what happened leading up to that. So, yeah, go see this film. It's out now on home video, I believe. And I'm going to go into spoilers a little bit now. So if you haven't seen the film, go watch it, come back, watch the rest of this. But if you are going to leave, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @the_Grant_Burton, and most importantly, subscribe to my channel. That'll help me grow my channel, it'll help me make more content for you, and it means a lot to me. So also leave some comments and some feedback down below. Tell me what you thought of Fighting With My Family. I liked it quite a bit. And now I'm going into spoilers. So you've been warned, full spoilers. So I've already touched on this. It completely omits Paige's career in NXT. It suggests that she went from being a wrestler in England to training in America to then all of a sudden being on the main roster. And it does touch on a couple of things here and there, but it just kind of suggests that she only ever had one match in NXT, which isn't the case at all. She was on NXT for a little while before she went to the main roster. And again, it completely omits Emma, also known as Tennille Dashwood. She played an important part in Paige's early career in NXT and WWE. They had a very historic match on the first NXT takeover. That's where the women's revolution started. And in fact, Emma, Tennille Dashwood, often gets disregarded in the development of the women's revolution, which I think is a little unfair because she was a key part of that match. So yeah, a little questionable how it's omitted all that, but it does again make for a more streamlined, simpler film. And in relation to this, because it's kind of skipped over that, it kind of changes the circumstances of her debut in WWE. When she comes onto the WWE scene here and makes her debut on Monday Night Raw, it kind of gives the impression that nobody knew who she was, the audience didn't cheer or react to her. It was like, oh, who the hell's this? That's not what happened at all. When she came to WWE and made her debut, it was a huge big deal. People were cheering. It was one of the biggest reactions of the night. It was a huge, surprising, shocking moment because she was a well-established, well-known, really, really well-liked wrestler at that time. And it was a big deal for her to come there. So to completely change those circumstances is a little odd, but again, it makes sense for the film and the story they're trying to tell here. And while the film does a good job of getting its message across and how important Paige was in the women's revolution and in sports and in wrestling, the end does suggest that she was kind of the only one responsible for this to an extent because it has omitted certain characters and certain people. So that's a little iffy, I'm not too sure about that. But that's what I thought of Fighting With My Family. It's all I got to say right now. So thanks for watching.